everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Nerd for No Reason podcast. I am one of your fantastic hosts, Mark, and Raven is out sick today, but that's okay, because today joining us on the podcast is a fellow podcaster. For a while, we've kind of run in the same circles. It is Amos from the Just Being Amos Podcast. Amos, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mark, for having me on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And I say that we kind of run in the same circles. I think I was telling you a little bit before we officially started recording that I can't remember exactly how I stumbled onto your podcast, but I did get turned on to a voice actress by the name of Prentice Osborne. But what I mean by us running in the same circles, it might have been when I think you might have been doing an interview or something with J.R. Mounts of
J.R.
Right, of Scary Tales, now Wickedly Twisted Fun, who was actually my very first podcast host or podcast guest way back in the day. And I was like, oh, fellow podcaster. So I was super stoked, man, to finally get you on a show of some sort.
Yes, man. It's been a while, man. You know, life happens and stuff like that, but it's been a while. You know, so things happen.
Yeah.
But when we finally here, man, we made it.
Yeah. So for the uninitiated, what is the Just Being Amos podcast?
Okay, for your listeners out there, the Just Being Amos podcast is, first of all, let me start right here. I am a comic book nerd. I like DC, Marvel, anything comic book. I read it, you know. And I also like movies and TV and stuff like that, anything in pop culture. So one day, I decided, I do a podcast because I want to get my my love of all those things on a platform. So I decided to do the Just Being Amos podcast. So that was the start of me doing it, because I want other people to listen to what I got to say, my opinions on things, just opinions and nothing, not facts, So it's just things I talk about with my co-host Trevor, because at first I did it by myself, but I had got a co-host with me. And I think having a co-host with you makes the interaction better, So that's the reason I'm doing my podcast, because it's the things that I love and I'm passionate about, and I talk about, comic books, movie, TV shows.
Yep.
Things like even games, a little bit of anime in there somewhere. But that's the reason why I did the podcast, and I've been doing it for the past maybe 5-6 years now, and I'm back on it again. Like you said, like I said, things happen. It was on hiatus for a while, but now I'm back on it.
Man, sometimes life has a way of just saying, whatever fun stuff you're doing, you just need to stop and focus on different things.
Yes, indeed. You're right about that.
So, now, because we kind of live in the same general area, is it okay if I kind of say like you're from the Atlanta area?
Oh yeah, you can say that.
Okay.
It's a lot of transplants in Atlanta. So
yeah,
I live in Atlanta, but I'm originally from Mississippi.
Oh, okay.
So you can say Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because I live about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours south of Atlanta. And
right.
I don't want to say I live in a quote unquote small town, but it's definitely nowhere near the size of Atlanta. What is the nerd culture, geek culture, like comic culture, all that? What's that like in Atlanta?
The Metro Atlanta area is pretty prominent over here, man. We have a lot of creators in that industry, man. We have plenty of like comic book shops and stuff like that. And matter of fact, I work at a comic book shop. It's been so long since I talked to you, man. I do work at a shop now, and I that's doing it for part time. But the culture here is it's a lot, man. It's like this weekend is Dragon Con.
Man,
that's Dragon Con this weekend. So you have people who are into comic books, cosplaying, things of that nature, and it's huge. And then everybody loves to have Labor Day weekend for Dragon Con. So the culture here is pretty strong, man. I would say.
Did you get a chance to go this year?
No, I had to work, man.
It happens to the
I
best
had
of
to
us.
work.
I know. I know the
Yeah, I
feeling.
have to work. Now, I've been going on and off, every so I go 1 year, skip a year, but I am going to a convention this week. It's in Baltimore,
Oh, okay.
Baltimore Comic Con. There's going to be all the big names there in the industry. Brian Bennett's going to be there, Arthur Adams, Jeff Johns. Some of the big names in the comic book industry are going to be there this week. I can't wait to go over there, man.
Yeah. I went to Dragon Con on Friday, and that was my first time ever going to Dragon Con. I was born and
Mhm.
raised here in Georgia, and I left for 8 years and went and did 8 years in the Air Force. But I came back here because this is where I ended up getting a job, and it is my first time. Friday was my first time at Dragon Con, and I was grossly underprepared for
Come on,
going.
man. Come on, dude.
Listen,
Listen.
man.
It's a Dragon Con we're talking about.
Okay, so I knew that it was big, okay? But and then from okay, I'll say this. Even after talking to comic book people, JR being one of them who went to like Los Angeles Comic Con, and I think he did New York City Comic Con, and his explanation was this. He was like, these cons are huge. Like Los Angeles was huge, New York was huge, but it was all in one place. And, it may be a skyscraper that you have to, traverse many floors, but it's pretty much all in one complex. Whereas Dragon Con is literally 5 hotels in downtown Atlanta.
And you were not ready for that,
I
right?
was not ready for that. Plus,
So,
my old man knees were like at about 6:30, 7 o'clock. They were like, okay, old man, you need to go home, drink that Ensure, take some Motrin. It's almost your bedtime. But no, for real, it was. I went by myself, which was for the best because I have a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I know for a fact that they would have been miserable, like just waiting that long line to get into the vendor building. Because I messed up initially because I got my badge and everyone always told me, like, just follow a crowd. You can never go wrong
yes.
because find somebody who's dressed up and follow them. And I was like, okay. And I did that. And they went into a hotel where there was nothing going on yet. Uh, they went into the
Well,
Westin
I'm gonna
and
give you some tips, man. I'm gonna give you some tips on this. So if you go next time, make sure you got the best walking shoes around, buddy,
yes.
because you're gonna be walking around 5 hotel rooms, like Jr. told you. Dragon Con is nice and all, but it's not a convention like I say Charlotte Heroes Con. It's just one place. It's just one place. But in Dragon Con, you're gonna actually have to walk blocks to block to block the 5 hotels.
Yep.
It is very demanding on your body, and I mean I give people props on the cosplay because I went one time, man. I dressed as Nick Fury. Good story here is this. Let me go scale it back a little bit. So I had made a promise to Mara Bagley's wife that I'd dress as Nick Fury because her grandkids wanted to come at the Little Avengers. So I shaved my head bald. First time ever shaving all my hair off my head, dude. So I got the black leather coat, the black everything in black, and the eye patch and the goatee. I got all the things right. And her grandson and grandsons and granddaughter was dressed as Hawkeye, little Captain America, and little Black Widow. It's pretty. It was cool. But the downsides of it all, it was hot.
Oh yeah.
So I had all that black on, man, and I mean it was terrible. I mean, people say, "Oh, I like your costume, man," but you just don't know the half, man. It's hot in this thing, dude. So what my thing is, you got to be very prepared to do a lot of walking and make sure you go to all your destination that you need to go to. Make plans, man. It's overwhelming,
Oh
man.
yeah.
It really is.
And if it helps, oh, like you said, have a plan. Um, I can go back now. Like next year when I go back, I will for sure have a better experience because I got a little bit of lay of the land. I know just kind of how things work a little bit. But just knowing that if I am at the vendor building and I want to get to a panel that's in 15 minutes, it's not happening. There's no way I'm going to be able to traverse 2 city blocks in a hotel and a half to get to the panel room in 15 minutes. It's just not doing it. But the costumes, man, the stuff that people come up with, and I think I went to I took my daughter to, I think it was just called the Atlanta Comic Con. It was over at the World Congress Center next to CNN, and I took my kid to that, and that was a good, nice kind of big size con, and we saw some really outstanding costumes and stuff there. Nothing holds a candle to some of the amazing things that I saw walking around the convention floor of like, and then all of a sudden like a literal 10-foot Wookiee shows up out of nowhere. And I'm like, what? And it's not like a mashup of another thing. It is literally some dude in a 10-foot Wookiee costume that looks absolutely real. It's amazing the stuff that people just come up with. I saw one girl in a unicorn outfit, so many Legend of Zelda things, Koroks and stuff, and just incredible, man.
There's a lot of creativity in that con, dude. It really is. I give people props on that because that's very creative, man. The time they put in to make those costumes.
Mm-hmm.
I give them mad props on that.
Yeah, and more Mandalorians than you can shake a stick at. I think I stumbled outside into the I guess picture taking area when all the Mandalorians were out there. I'm not sure if it was 501st or not. We'll just say it was. But when the 501st was out there taking pictures, and when I tell you there had to have been at least 500 Mandalorians out there, that is not an exaggeration. It was
this
incredible.
Is the way.
Yeah, yes, this is the way.
This is the way.
So, oh man. So what got you into comics and I guess the geekdom culture? Because, well, when did you transplant from Mississippi to Atlanta?
I was in Mississippi since I left Mississippi in 1999.
Okay.
It was in December 1999 I left Mississippi, and I got here, spend time with my uncle and stuff like that. Prior to that, I always collected comics because where I'm from, it's not a local comic book shop. I had to get my comic books out of freaking the advertising the comic books. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I had to order my books from Mile High Comics, East Coast Comics, and all that stuff, man. And I actually got my books from grocery stores and stuff like that.
Yep.
In Mississippi. So I wasn't fortunate enough to have a local comic book shop at the time. So I always had the comic books on and off like that. And so when I left Mississippi, I got here into Atlanta, and it was just like a dream, dude. Like, dude, this is what I was gonna get my comic books from here. Well, I'll be ordering I'm from a small town, man. I'm from a small town. My population probably not 2,000. I don't know. It's small.
Yeah.
So man. So when I moved here, and I looked at these comic book shops, and this is crazy. And I got back into it, and I got into it very hard. I mean, strong. I got into it. It's up until I was with a friend, and he was dating this woman, and she said, "Amos, you collect comics and books like that?" I said, "Yeah, I do." Well, I have an uncle that does it for a living. I said, "You're lying." I said, "You're lying." I said, no, your uncle don't work for them. He doesn't do comic books. Okay. So that jump skip to like a month later or something, right? So I get invited to one of her family functions. And the guy opened the door, right? He said, my name is Mark Bagley. I said, what? I said, D. Mark Bagley? I'm like, oh, okay. And this was like in 2000, 2001.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so he introduced himself, I do Spider-Man. And I went in the studio, I was a kid again, man, because I remember collecting some Amazing Spider-Man that Mark did, and he gave me an Ultimate Spider-Man signed book, and this one Ultimate Spider-Man was at his height when they first started Ultimate Spider-Man. Him and Brian Bendis,
Yeah.
and it was at its height right now, and right then and there, man. I mean, I know Mark for the past 20 some odd years now.
That's
You know,
incredible, man.
yeah, man. So that's how the universe works, right? it's, it's crazy. So I've been in comic books ever since then. I was in it. I never stopped collecting afterwards.
Was there kind of like a definitive comic that you remember picking up as a kid, like what, like, because I kind of fell in that same boat where there wasn't kind of a comic shop around here, like there was one, but it was like 30 minutes away, and that was like the only one for within a considerable distance. I picked up my comics from like a local gas station that I would go in and buy, like, like 50-cent soda and be like, ooh,
Yeah.
uh
Well, I think for me is the first one I ever picked up was an Avengers book. It was an annual. I can't remember the annual number, but I remember the pages of it. They were fighting a mechanical dinosaur or something. You know how comic books are,
oh
man. It
yeah.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but it's there, right? And I think that was the first one I ever picked out of a grocery store. And like I said, after that, I started getting bit into it in my let's see, my preteen years. Yeah. So I started picking up Amazing Spider-Man. I was a Spider-Man and X-Men nut. I was always getting those books and everything like that. And like I said, I had to order those things inside the comic book. I had to write the list down, tell my mom, how much is it, Amos? The girls are, you can't get it. I'm like, okay. You know how parents are. You don't read, you read it. But you know what? That was a form of entertainment for me. And it's a good thing. It's literature. It's visual, but it's also literature. But you can have some people learn how to read the comic books.
Yep.
You get stories like that. So for me, man, that's how I learned how to read more frequently. Now I just read those books, and the art was good. I mean, hey, that's a kid's dream, right? Look at the art, then you can read some words in the bubble. Hey, shit, win.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah,
It for sure, actually, especially now because there's so many different tie-ins with like existing cartoons.
right.
It's actually helped my kids to where my oldest one, when she was younger, like the new My Little Pony was very big. She was probably about 5 or 6 and watching My Little Pony, and we just happened to be at the comic store one day, and she saw My Little Pony comic. Oh, Dad, My Little Pony. I'm like, absolutely. If it gets you reading, it's okay. And then from there, that just luckily spiraled into something else, and now my youngest is kind of getting on that same train where she's getting that property, recognition of like, oh man, I know this and I know this, and she's never seen the original trilogy of Star Wars, but she's seen The Mandalorian. So when we're at the comic shop, she's like, oh, Baby Yoda or Grogu or Mandalorian. Can I say yes, baby, you can. If it gets you reading, I am okay with it.
And
So,
that's the fun part of it all, right?
oh yeah, that's I I love. Do you have children?
No, I do not.
Okay. There's like this really fun part of being a parent when your kids kind of take interest in the same things that you like, whether it be something you liked as a kid or something that you like now, and when they're like, oh man, I like Star Wars. Like for my kids now, when we go do Star Wars stuff, they're like, look how cool this is, Dad. And I'm right there with them. I'm like kind of living vicariously through them and their new eyes when they see this new stuff that I've been a fan of my whole life. When they discover anime or something, like, oh man, what is this? I'm like, kid, this is the anime that I grew up on, before
Oh, you
everyone
started
knew
on
what
anime.
anime was. So, and it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard describing to the younger generation now who have access to all this different kind of media and anime and all this other stuff, what it was like for us as children when I have to describe, like, we had to record anime off of TV the 2 hours a week it was on Sci-Fi Channel on a Saturday morning. You know, we got like a super edited version of Vampire Hunter D, and that was the tape that we wore out, you know?
I agree with you, man. Vampire Hunter D was one of my favorite ones. As a matter of fact, I got both on Blu-ray.
Oh,
the first movie and the second movie.
Yep. I do as well. That's one of my actual favorite animes. The comic that came out, it's probably been about 10 years. I don't want to say 10 years ago now. I'm terrible with time.
It's been that long because they never finished the comic book.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed that. That's one of those things where it's like, I feel vampires fall into like two categories in movies now, where they're all just like underworld, where they all just wear black leather and just kind of, you know, look at me, I'm so sexy. And that, or they're like just super, you know, hyper violent type of thing. I feel like Vampire Hunter D was like this first kind of thing of, you know, here's a character who actually has an arc and a backstory that isn't this kind of luxurious character, you know?
Yeah, D. Yep, D and the talking hand he had.
The hand. Oh, geez, there's so many jokes made about that dumb hand.
Yeah, I know, right? I watch some anime, but I'm not a big, what you call it, how these guys are into it.
Yeah.
I'm not like that. I got stuff I'm into. Cause I get most of my information from my co-host, Trevor. He's a big anime nut. So I've been watching this thing called Zom 100. It's about the zombie apocalypse, man. This guy got a bucket list.
Really?
I'm gonna briefly talk about that.
Oh yeah, what you got, man? I haven't even heard of this.
Yeah, it's called Zom 100. Short for zombie, Zom. Zom 100 is about this worker in Japan. You know, he works for this company. You know, they do a lot of exploitation of people having worked crazy hours over and over again. You know, and this guy, he's all high spirited. He want to work for the company. He's a go getter, right? Months later, man, he is worn the hell out. They just used him. So, so one day, he hear noise in the background and stuff like that, and all of a sudden, it's a zombie apocalypse, and he doesn't have to go to work. So he don't have to go to work, and he thinking to himself, "I got a day off," and while all this is going on, this guy want to go get some beer. So he wakes up. You see, all hell is breaking loose. People, zombie running after people, people getting eaten and stuff like that. And it's not gross as far as you would think it is, because the way they do the blood splatter, it's rainbow colors.
Huh.
And I think because of Japan and the censorship thing, I think the reason they do that for, I think. And so he goes to try to get the beer and stuff like that. And he said he's happy that he had to go to work. That's all he got from the whole situation, dude. So right now they're on 6 episodes. And, you know, throughout this whole zombie apocalypse, he actually made a bucket list. The things he did not do while he was working because he didn't have the time to do it because he was getting exploited. He was working all these crazy hours. He had no time off, no vacation days, nothing. So he decided he wanted to make a bucket list in the zombie apocalypse. That's all in a nutshell. It is funny. It's hilarious, dude.
And thus shenanigans happen.
And it happens, man. It's called Zom 100. With the zombie bucket list.
All right. Well, I will have to check that out. That seems very fun.
And that's the thing, though, man. With anime, there's so many genres within that, and within that culture of anime, there's so many things you can watch, and that's, to me, it's refreshing. This is something that's different. You know, it's hilarious. It got action, comedy. It's, like you say, shenanigans.
Yeah, it is really something to say where you can treat an animated movie as a quote unquote live, well, I say regular movie because it could be a drama, it can be a comedy, it can be all these different things. And
Right.
especially, I feel like it's especially prevalent here in the South amongst like people who would, I imagine, be our father's age or our parents' age, where they cartoons are instantly dismissed as a children's medium,
Kids.
you know. And I remember for years and years and years when as a teenager, as I'm watching this stuff, and my dad's like, "Oh, you're too old to be watching cartoons." And I'm like, but it's not just cartoons, you know. Like it is essentially like an action movie. And I remember I made him sit down and watch this movie. I made him sit down and watch Ninja Scroll, if you know what that is.
Oh, a classic. I got it on Blu-ray,
Yep.
baby.
I
I got
made
it.
him sit down. I was like, "You're gonna watch this movie from front to back, and at the end of it, if you don't like it, then I will not subject you to any more of it. It'll be no more." And we got done with it, and the credits started rolling. And I looked at him. I was like, "What'd you think?" He was like, "You know what?" He was like, that was actually a really good movie, man." He was like, "I get it now." And he doesn't watch anime by himself, but he doesn't constantly complain about it anymore either, and that is a step in the right direction.
Well, great, man. What it is, I mean, that's the part of the culture over there in Japan.
Oh yeah.
So it's an everyday thing. But over here in America, we soak it up.
Mm-hmm.
We really soak it up, man. And that includes manga and anime. We soak it up. But yeah, that's why I've been watching the anime. That's it.
Mm. All right. Well, let's move into let's talk about this week's movie. And with you being the guest, keeping with tradition on the show that when we have a guest, we let them pick the movie of the week. And this week you picked the new latest of the DCEU. Possible. Well, I don't think it's the last. I think we still got Aquaman in the
Of
works. That's
course.
part of the quote unquote Snyderverse. But you picked the Flash.
Yes, the Flash.
So I will ask the question that I usually ask Raven: Is was this your first time watching it?
Yes.
And did you like it?
Do you want the comic book Amos or you just want the movie Amos? Which one
Man, you can give me whatever Amos you want. I want a genuine reaction about how you felt about
Okay.
this movie.
Okay, it was not a bad movie. It's not a good movie. I say it was okay. I just say it's okay. It's nothing to brag about. It's nothing groundbreaking and nothing of that sort. It was a movie I could watch, and I say I watched it, and it was okay. I'll just say that.
I have to agree with you that it's definitely not bad, but it's also definitely not good.
Not
I
good.
feel like
Mm-mm.
there's a good movie somewhere in there. It's just
Agreed.
not what we got. And it's not going to be in like some extended director's cut or anything like that. Like there's more that's going to take to fix it. But I feel like it kind of has almost just enough to be a good movie.
Yes, I agree with you on that. Because first of all, it had the potential to be a good movie, but elements of it of the off the what is it? Elements of off the camera things going on with the movie, the pushback of the movie. How many times had to be pushed back, this and this and that. I think kind of hurt it a little bit because they had to do a lot of some reshoots and it had to be because of COVID that happened. And the actor, the main protagonist, the main guy, Miller, he having issues off the camera on film,
Yeah.
so that played a part in a lot of things too, man. Because when I saw the trailer of it, I was like, oh, okay, that's remind me of Flashpoint from the comic book. Which Flashpoint was a great story,
Yeah.
by the way. It was done well, and I said, all right, cool. And then on top of that, they bring back Michael Keaton as Batman. I like, okay, cool.
Right.
All right, I like that Batman. That was one of the better Batman before Christopher Nolan did this stuff. But I was game. Okay, cool. So when I watched the movie on Max, I'm like, because I was going to watch it over the summer, but then I heard the reviews. It was not a Rotten Tomato. It wasn't bad. They gave it 68 tomatoes, which is not bad. But it didn't make your money. It did not make the money like it's supposed to.
Right.
So I said, you know what? I just wait till it come on Max, which it did, and I watched it. I just went through the 2 hour movie, and at the end of it, I said, huh, okay. I just left it like that, man.
Did did
That's
you
all.
did you do the same thing I did? Or are you familiar with the Flashpoint animated movie that DC put
Oh,
out a while ago?
I, I own it, man.
Okay.
Flashpoint Paradox.
So I spent the whole time like I honestly thought that Michael Keaton wasn't going to be Bruce Wayne. I was
Right,
going into this going, this is a red herring. Like he's going to be quote unquote Batman, but he is not going to be Bruce Wayne. He's going to be Thomas Wayne. I thought that
right.
they were going to like do all this stuff. And as the movie kept kind of progressing, I'm like, but it isn't the animated Flashpoint. Like it's not that. It like I
Yeah, that was
probably
great.
I
That was a
probably
great
shouldn't
movie.
have compared it, but at the same time, like you're literally taking, it's a Flashpoint movie, no matter what. And I was just like, man, and I kind of don't like Ezra Miller's Barry.
I don't either. I
I
don't.
I don't like that he's this fidgety kind of manic person. I get that's kind of, you know, his interpretation of the Flash, and I guess actors can, they're allowed to put their own spin on a character, but I grew up with animated Justice League Flash Barry Allen.
Wally West. Wally
Yes.
West.
So,
He reminded me more of Wally West personality than Barry Allen. Because Allen was more of he was a SCI. He was a forensic cop. He was a cop, and he was very analytical. He solved murders,
mhm.
right? So his demeanor was not like that of Wally West. Wally West was Kid Flash in the comic book.
Yeah.
He became the Flash after Barry Allen died in Crisis on Infinite Earths for you people out there who know what I'm talking about. So he died, and Wally West was the Flash that everybody know of, which was on Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. I get what you're saying, Mark. So for me, Israel Miller portrayal of Barry Allen, I didn't care much of in the way he ran. That was awkward looking to me, man. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't like his run. I do like the speed effect though.
yeah,
Like
I had no
that
problem with
that was part of like of the few compliments that I do give this movie. Like some of
Yeah,
the special effects, we're gonna touch on some of the other ones, but like
yeah,
the
boy.
speed effect was actually kind of cool, or the running effect. Let me say that, not the actual speed effect. So
Yes, yeah, yeah. Him swinging his arm the way he did, I didn't care much for that, dude. Do I actually do? I swing my arm when I run? I don't think I do.
not like that. I don't think
That
anyone
not like
does.
that. You're like a herky jerky kind of move, just wiggling one.
I mean, it's that one scene where after he loses his powers and he kind of does that running without the special effects behind him. It's just like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, you run like a buffoon, my man. It is,
right. Yeah, it looks ridiculous.
yeah, and I don't know if that's just the actor's choice or if Zack Snyder, 10 years ago was like, all right, listen, here's how I want you to run because we got to over exaggerate everything, you know.
Yeah,
So
that's a reminiscence of Zack Snyder.
yeah,
That's another story within itself.
oh, it
Now,
is, it is.
yes,
So, but this movie brought back Wonder Woman for what was essentially a cameo. Like she was in the movie
right.
for like a minute. I love me some Gal Gadot. I'm upset that the second Wonder Woman movie was as bad as it was. But I
Ooh,
do love Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. I feel like there's a lot of potential there for her still if
James Gunn keep her around.
yeah, James Gunn keeps her around. So, but I think, man, I was really nervous about Batfleck so many years ago, and he's kind of panned out to be an all right Batman. I
I have
don't
nothing
hate
against
him.
Batfleck. I don't hate him, man. To me, he's not. He's up. Hold on, how can I say this? Ben Affleck was not the problem as Batman.
Right,
It was the writing of the movies that was the problem.
right.
I think he did a good job at playing Batman. older Batman at
R-
best, or a middle-aged Batman. You know, he
yeah,
played the Batman. He played the part to me. It's just the fact that, to me, this is just my opinion, that the writing was awful. Period. For Batman, what was it?
Batman versus
Um,
Superman.
Superman, yeah, Dawn of Justice,
Yep.
and the Justice League was just bad writing.
Yeah, it
That's what
absolutely
it
was.
is.
And that's a man. If we ever decide to do Batman versus Superman, we'll have to bring you back on, because that's one of those movies where I sat there and just as I thought they were turning it around, I was like, oh man, did they really put
Dude,
Gotham
dude,
right across the bay from Metropolis? Which I guess now that I've actually looked up where the cities are supposed to be, you know, in the
they're
real
not
world.
far.
Yeah, they're not as far as people think, but
No.
I don't know if they were supposed to be that close. I don't know. That's just one of my many complaints with Batman versus Superman.
Dude, if you want to go recap that movie, I would cut it up, tear it apart. I would destroy it. Dude, man, you put me on a podcast talking about that movie, man, I would destroy that movie, man. I mean, I don't care who these Zack Snyder fans are. You know, cool for you guys, but I don't see what y'all see of that movie, man.
I
That
don't.
movie is god awful. I don't care what he did. The director's cut for that, even the Justice League he did. Although he had problems, I mean, he had death in the family. His daughter died, and he came back and did it over again in 4 hours on HBO Max. That was a lot. That's 4 hours, dude.
Yeah.
But was it? I mean, I would say that it wasn't bad. It was. It was too long. I guess he wanted to put the. No, I digress. Okay. We'll go back to Flash.
All right. I was gonna let you go because we're kind of on the same wavelength. Who did the speedster slow down? I'm gonna save a bunch of things real fast better. Do you think? Because I was thinking about this during the baby scene, which we're gonna break down the baby scene as a whole in just a second. But who do you think did it better, the X-Men or the Snyderverse films, with like how the Flash slows down everything?
No, dude. X-Men. I'm sorry. Down. X-Men. Period. Point blank.
Absolutely.
Because it makes sense. Everything is slower to him. You know, when he did the scene, what was it? When he was rescuing Magneto, he slowed down time. I mean, everything was slow to him.
Yeah.
And then when he saved them in Apocalypse, that was great. I think his scenes are way better, man.
I think so too. And the CG babies falling out of a window.
Oh
man, the first
and
time
CG dog. Don't forget the dog.
I get that you can't have real babies and real dogs and stuff falling out of windows and stuff, but man, they looked so plastic and fake and just, I don't know, man. Like it really, like that uncanny valley of just like, I am out of whatever is in this. Like I appreciate the cartoonishness of one baby's got acid coming to it and another one's got a fire bottle. Like I appreciate that kind of corniness and cartoonish that's happening right here. But at the same time, like if I feel like I'm watching what do they call them? Real dolls, like fall out of a window. Like I'm not invested. Like, oh, something's going to happen.
You know? And that's the problem for that movie, was the CGI.
Yeah.
And that was evident in the baby scene, you know. For your audience out there listening, spoilers alert for everybody. So if you haven't watched The Flash, I'm sorry.
First off, if you haven't watched The Flash, what are you even doing listening to this podcast?
Yeah, right. I'm saying, dude. Because when I do my podcast, I have to give spoilers. I have to give everybody warnings before I start. So, I mean, the baby scene, man, the special effect was not good. Like you said, it's very cartoonish. And like they were very cheap on the production of that. It was cheap. And it just all together, the CGI, the whole movie was not that good. Even the time when I'm jumping ahead, even when Barry was going back and forth trying to change the time. And you see the other worlds, parallel worlds. Oh my God! Of Nicolas Cage Superman, that was
all of the
Christopher Reeve.
Anything that takes place in the Speed Force, we'll call it yeah, that that entire CGI was just made me whatever forgiveness I can give the rest of this movie. I feel like all the Speed Force stuff where they used CGI versions of actors that they had available. And this isn't even when we go to alternate dimensions or whatever, but like when we're showing
Christopher Reeves.
well, no, Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, like as they're showing that, and then like the Flash's dad when we see Barry's dad, and it's clearly a CG person. And I'm like, why didn't you just get the actor to act the scene out instead of having a CG thing? Because this looks so fake and just not even real. And you know, you could have got Nicolas Cage to throw on a suit for a check. I'm sure, like, the man's done some questionable things over the recent years. I'm sure that he would have taken a Warner Brothers check for, you know, $50,000 to throw on a suit for a day.
Of course. Oh. Come on, dude. He loves Superman. You know, he almost had a movie be done by Tim Burton. It was shelved.
Yeah. And to be fair, I do appreciate that kind of being the inside joke of Nicolas Cage fighting the Spider-Man based off of that Kevin Smith story. That is, I feel like that's a very good kind of secret handshake to people because my wife would have no idea. Like, why is Nicolas Cage in this movie, you know, fighting a giant spider? But we would know. But I also think that this is also kind of a dangerous precedent and not to get too deep in the weeds on some
the AI.
The AI and the reason the writers and the actors are striking right now. Like this kind of sets that kind of dangerous precedence. You know, did Nick Cage even get a check?
I totally agree with you on that. 'Cause I was thinking about that when that was so they used their likeness of Christopher Reeves, Nicolas Cage, Helen Slater. You know, and right now the writers and actors are fighting that. And they used it, but they didn't cut a check for Nicolas Cage. We don't know about it. They probably did. We don't know. But I agree with you on that, Mark. I really do.
Yeah. And even like Jason Momoa was in the film, you know, and he seems like one of those guys who you wouldn't even have to pay him to put on the Aquaman to be Aquaman. Cause I don't know if you saw Peacemaker or not, but
loved it.
But Barry and Aquaman were the only two people who were on camera, you know, at the end of Peacemaker. And Jason Momoa really seems like a dude where he's like, yes, Aquaman, sure, no, where do you need me?
Yep. So I remember that. Yeah, they did show up because Henry and Gadot was silhouettes of other people. But I know Barry and Aquaman showed up. I remember that was funny.
Yeah,
it was funny.
What do you think of the running joke of all the alternate actors in the different movies? Where Eric Stoltz was in Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox was in Footloose.
Oh man, that was hilarious to me. He kept saying, "It's Michael J. Fox." You talking about the guy from Family Time? But I guess people who don't know is that Eric Stoltz was Marty McFly in the beginning, and I think what it was in Back to the Future, he tests well. I think what it was, right?
They shot a good portion of the movie.
Yeah, they did. I think it didn't pan out.
Yeah, I think it might be in one of the newer Blu-ray releases. There is a lot, like probably 20 minutes worth of footage where they're like, yeah, here's what it would have looked like with Eric Stoltz. And I've seen some of it, and it just didn't, it just didn't seem right. And I guess it could just be because we're so used to Michael J. Fox now, but it just didn't seem to kind of have that funness, I guess, that Michael J. Fox brought. But yeah, that's been a Hollywood story for years and years that Eric Stoltz was the first Marty McFly.
Yeah, that was a running joke. I hate the pun, running joke. Yeah, because of that. But yeah, I thought it was very funny.
Well, one thing I did like about this movie, that I like that we kind of got an origin story for a character that's already been in 3 different movies.
Yeah, right.
And for all the flaws in this movie, I thought the way that they told this origin story was very clever. That you basically get a second Barry, and you say, okay, cool, this is how it happened for me, and we get to recreate all of this and try to do all of these same things, and we get someone, learning their powers for the first time, and essentially it's still Barry, and Barry is kind of his own mentor, and it's kind of clever. Yeah. And I really did kind of enjoy that. But at the same
wasn't bad.
But at the same time, I also found young Barry kind of really annoying.
I didn't care much for young Barry, man. He was a dunce.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just still ridiculous. But you know what, though? It would have been nice to put in Zoom in there some type of way. Because, in the books, the killer would actually Zoom from the future in the books. He killed his mom.
Yeah.
That's how we got Flashpoint. Because Barry, in the books and Flashpoint Paradox, you see him running back in the past trying to save his mom. But that was Zoom that did all that. But in the movie, we didn't get that, which I think is probably better off that way. But like I said, the Flashpoint Paradox animated movie was good. It was good. And the violence was there too.
Yeah, but I kind of see it, and I'm kind of torn on the storytelling part, because there's a part of me with the Flashpoint Paradox, the animated movie, where you have to have a little bit of knowledge going into it.
Yeah, it is.
And I know that this movie is like, okay, we can't throw too much at the screen. We can't say there's this relationship between Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and it's not Bruce Wayne, it's Thomas Wayne. Yeah. And I get it. And and who killed Barry's mom? It's this other speedster named Zoom.
Right.
And I kind of get it. But at the same time, there's so much stuff where I'm like, why did we have 2 Barrys? Why did we do this? Why, there's just certain things that why do we make changes? So let's
Yeah, I agree on you on that. I mean, I agree. I mean, like you said, that would be a little bit too much for the movie. But when it comes to the multiverse and stuff or that with time travel, man, it's like time travel is so what's the word I'm looking for? They say it's linear, but man, they be screwing time travel up. Remember how they said in Endgame how time travel was? He said, "What about Back to the Future?" He said, "No."
well, they explained it really good in Endgame, I think, where he was like, "Listen, either it's all serious or it's all a joke. There's no in between. So either we're just gonna say okay, where it's gonna either make no sense and you're just gonna deal with it, or we're gonna break our own brain trying to keep everything in line." And I think that was kind of the point where they just subliminally told the audience, like, strap in, because we tried to make it make sense. If it doesn't, we don't care.
Right. You're right, man. Because doing time travel, the movies and everything like that, it's always has to be set rules.
Yep.
And Barry and The Flash. I'm thinking about Flashpoint. The Flash, he kind of broke all the rules. He was making the rules as he was going.
Mm-hmm.
Because he never done that before. So he broke the time barrier. He went to the Speed Force and went back in time. So, I mean, he was making it as he was going along. So, but then with Bruce Wayne explained it to him more when they met up for the first time.
Right. And let's talk about Batman, because we have not really touched on Batman too much. What do you think Michael Keaton, who was 71 when this movie came out earlier this year, 71, the oldest person to put on the bat suit, how do you think Michael Keaton did stepping back into the role of Batman?
Man, I was so happy to see that, man. I was so happy to see that.
It did scratch a very specific itch I didn't know I had. That was he did surprisingly well. The Batman stuff was shot really good in this movie.
Yes, they did, man. Because in when the Batman he did back in late 90s, late 80s, in 88, 89, I guess it was.
Yeah.
He couldn't move in that bat suit. He could not move. They couldn't move it because and now they with the way technology is, special effects, and he can move in the suit. Right? The way they had him moving and stuff like that, I think that
Mm-hmm.
was pretty cool, man. And the flying, the gliding cape and stuff like that, like wow, this is great. And he brought out the bat wing, and they brought out the song.
The song, I was just about to say that, man. When they hit not Tim Burton, Danny Elfman, the
Right.
the Danny Elfman song when they showed the bat suits, I was like, oh boy,
But yep. Yep.
just a big old smile you couldn't chisel off my face with a jackhammer. It was, yeah, that did it for me.
Yeah, I was very satisfied with him coming back and playing Batman, an older Batman at that anyway. Because he said in the movie, he said, "Why they need me? I mean, Gotham is safe." That's always
Yeah,
been the problem in the Bat books, right? Something always happened in Gotham, man. Batman fight all his rogue gallery. It's still the same thing, the revolving door over and over again. And here in the Flash, Gotham don't need a Batman no more. So crime is down. It's
yep.
hardly no crime. So that's why he retired.
And the rumor was that if the Flash did good, then we were going to get a Batman Beyond with Michael Keaton
Oh
as old Bruce
man,
Wayne.
I read the rumors of that, man. I will be in the front seat to watch that, man.
Man, I'm trying not to let all these fantastic animated movies or animated shows that we watched when we were younger cloud my judgment and get me too hyped up for something like that. Because it's like really putting something on like a super high pedestal that it may not ever reach. Because I loved the animated Batman Beyond. It was such a good series, you know. And just to think, like, how would we even do that nowadays? Like, who would that even be able to be pitched as something? Yeah, we're gonna do this and let you know, uh, 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 try to sell it to the mass audiences when we know there's only a small section of people who remember Batman Beyond.
But with James Gunn at DC Studios running the show, it might be a possibility. I mean, he has the ideas for these movies and shows, man. I mean, it could be a possibility.
Yeah,
I mean, come on now. I mean, shoot. He made Guardians of the Galaxy a second tier or a third tier group in the comic books that no one really cared about into a household name, man. A
yeah,
talking tree and a talking raccoon. Come on,
right. If you would have told
man.
me,
So,
if you would have told me 10 years ago that that one of the biggest Marvel franchises is Guardians of the Galaxy, I would have said you are out of your mind.
right. But for me though, me being what I know, because the lineup they had for that movie was the stories I was reading already,
Yeah,
and it was good stories. So I mean, he finds a way. He found a way to get some of the obscure characters and make something out of them.
yeah.
I think he does a great job of doing that. So with him running DC Studios, it might not be far fetched, man. It might get a Batman Beyond. Who knows? If the story's right.
Yeah, I hope so. He seems like he kind of like he has a plan for for moving forward, and I feel like DC was in such a hurry to catch up with Marvel that none of this like the big bombastic things that they tried to do with like Justice League and the Snyderverse as a whole, none of it felt kind of earned.
No,
Because
it wasn't.
by the time we got our first Avengers movie with everyone teaming up, we had what, four, maybe five movies at that point that led up to that were getting us hyped for that, to like, oh man, we can't wait for these people to get together. And it was the second Superman movie where they were like, let's just throw everyone in there. We'll introduce Wonder Woman and we'll have Doomsday kill Superman, because that was a thing. And it's like being in a rush to put Venom in a Spider-Man movie, like let's
Yeah.
do this because Venom, right? Everyone loves Venom, and it just didn't feel earned. And I still like this movie kind of feels that way where it's like we're here in this universe and we're doing all this stuff with Flash and Bruce Wayne and stuff, and it's starting to feel a little bit better, but it still doesn't feel like we've reached this point where we need to have a Flash solo movie. Kind of ultimately to kind of bring it back to Flash, like it just doesn't seem like we're right there, you know?
I agree. I totally agree with you on that.
What'd you think about how they portrayed Bruce as kind of like this hermit, you know, where he's got the long scraggly hair and the beard, and he's just basically this crazy old man who lives in a big house fighting intruders with brooms?
I think it was pretty neat to have him do that. It was out of character.
It was.
But just think about it though, man. I mean, like I said, crime not there anymore in Gotham. So Alfred is dead. I mean, who's gonna take care of the house? It's run down.
Yeah,
So,
there was this great scene after they rescued Kara, where he's stitching himself up and he looks in the mirror and he kind of has that middle-aged crisis moment where he's like, "Yeah, back on top, baby, I did it."
Yeah, he didn't lose a step.
Yeah, that was a great scene where I was just like, "Oh, this is the billionaire's midlife crisis." He's just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be Batman. Time to break out the jet, baby."
Well, I got a question. Speaking of Kara, what do you think about them swapping out Superman for Kara?
I wish it would have been Cavill, but
okay.
I'll say this. I like Kara. I like the actress. I like what they were trying to do with this character. I am not upset ultimately that this is kind of where they went, but at the same time, I like Cavill's Superman, but I hated his writing.
Right.
I felt like Cavill got the raw end of the deal, because this really seemed like a dude who really wanted to be Superman. He really enjoyed the character. Like, he really seemed like he was down to be Superman, but Zack Snyder and David Goyer were let's make him dark and brooding.
Which he's not.
Right.
He's not that.
And one of the better fan edits that came from Man of Steel, where someone color corrected the scene where he learns to fly, and they kind of brighten the colors and make Superman kind of this bright character that he's supposed to be instead of mopey. And oh my goodness, Kevin Costner is Pa Kent. I remember being in the theater watching this with my wife, and the scene in Man of Steel where the tornado is getting ready and he waves them off like, "No, let the tornado take me." And I'm like, that is not the point of Pa Kent's death. Pa Kent dies of a heart attack because then that shows Superman that with all this infinite power and magic abilities that he has, that there's some things that you just can't fight against. That is the whole point of Pa Kent's having a heart attack, not dying in a tornado that a man with super fast speed could have easily went in there, saved him, and been back, and no one ever would have known.
And going back to what you said earlier, poor writing.
Right.
That's it.
Oh, man. Kara as Supergirl. I dug her. I liked her. I don't know if James Gunn is going to keep her around. There's kind of been yes or no. But I think she has the potential to hang around for a while. So
I think so too. I think so as well. She was not bad at all. I mean, she portrayed his cousin, you know. And she was easy on the eyes too.
Yeah, she was.
But I think she did a good job of playing his cousin.
The scene, her first scene where she gets out, where she's beating everybody up on top of the Russian kind of testing facility. I was all about that. Like, that was a really good scene where Batman and Supergirl are just getting it. I was like, man, that's what was so frustrating about this movie, where there are scenes like that where I'm like, yes, absolutely. This is fun. This is the superhero movie I want, you know? And
And I agree with you on that. I mean, those were some great scenes. I mean, that's the fun part of the movie right there.
yeah, and
Those,
the CG wasn't terrible, you know.
nope.
And it was the same thing when we had the big battle in the desert where we're fighting
Right.
Zod, which
Right.
I thought, if you're going to have a villain, Zod would not have even pinged on my radar. Like, we've already done Zod. Why are we doing Zod again? But they brought him back, and I'm not terribly upset about that.
It made total sense.
Yeah.
It did.
No.
I don't think Shannon wanted to come back at first, but they convinced him to come back. The guy who played Zod, he came back and played him because I think that was another thing they did in Man of Steel. The Zod situation, he killing him. Like, oh god, it was just bad writing altogether. I'll just leave it like that. But Man of Steel.
Yeah. What did you think? What did you think about how they did? I guess we'll call them Reverse Flash, Zoom in this movie, I guess, if you will. Bad Barry. What do you think about that? As someone who is a fan of the comics and knows kind of what Flashpoint was and all of this, and then it just ended up being just Angry Barry with Kryptonian spikes.
I didn't like that. I didn't like it that much at all. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but I just didn't like, because it reminded me of going back to the Flash lore. There's also a Black Flash. I think he's deaf, I believe, and they remind me of that character. And I think the origin of the character was I didn't care much for it. To be honest with you, I didn't.
Yeah.
Nah.
It just seemed like, again, time travel is a tricky thing. And it's like when there was the scene where we basically have 3 Barrys and the multiverse is crashing in on us and all of this, it's like I would have much rather it just been young Barry and not young Barry sacrificing himself to kill the old one and all that, because then that shows that he learned a lesson, and he obviously didn't. It's weird. Time travel is picky like that. Where
I told you,
it's
just crazy, man. Time travel is just crazy. I mean, you got to set ground rules in the beginning,
right?
And you break those rules, you like, what's the point?
Right. So it was. Yeah, it was weird. And then that was also followed up by all the weird AI people and stuff. And it was a lot to take in a very short amount of time. I will say I did kind of like the concept a little bit, like how they had Silver Age Flash, and they did like the
Jay Garrick. They did Jay Garrick. They did.
Yep.
They did Jay Garrick, and they did the Flash, I believe.
Why can I? Oh, Adam West Batman. They did, a quick little vocal thing with that, and if I would have, if someone will come out and say that Christopher Reeve's estate and the girl who got to play Supergirl, that we cut them a check for I probably would be like, okay, I get why you can't have Christopher Reeve, but there has to be enough footage somewhere on a cutting room floor where you could take that and put it in instead of the awkward CGI.
Yeah, it was very off-putting, man. This way it was not good.
Yeah,
the CGI was not good, man. Like it was done back in the early 2000s.
Yes, yeah.
It was not good.
And what's so astounding by this is that this movie was in development hell for so long, because they shot it in 2020, and I get pandemic, everything took twice as long, but supposedly they finished filming in 2021, so they had 2 years of just, when are we going to put it out? It kept getting delayed and all this. No one thought, hey, let's make this CGI look as flawless as we possibly can. And
yeah, you're right. And I mean, this is going back to Hollywood in general, though, man. It's like, I hate to do the comparison here, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's like some of the latest MCU movies has had poor CGI.
Yeah.
At, yeah, it's what happened is you working these people not paying them the money and expect them to put out great work, but you're not paying them the money to do great work, man. Because they don't. It's lackluster. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Period.
And then
I
you
mean,
have
it's
and then you have someone like James Cameron who puts out Avatar 2, which I'm not that big a fan of Avatar 2, but I will say that there is not a movie more beautiful than Avatar 2.
right.
It's I told my kid when we saw that movie in the theater, I said the story of it is dumb to me, but that movie, for a movie that has CGI in literally every single scene, you cannot tell me that is not real water that these blue aliens are swimming around in with these mythical whales. Like, this is as real as it can possibly look.
And going back to what I said, spending the money on the CGI,
Mm-hmm.
and which seemed like to me, not Disney, but DC did not want to spend it.
Yep.
You got to understand, DC was going through a lot of changes too.
That's true.
I mean, it was going through presidents here. This guy left. They did this, and it was just so much going on. And now it's not Warner Brothers anymore. It's what is it? Discovery.
Warner Brothers Discovery.
Discovery, yeah,
Yep.
Warner Brothers Discovery. So it's just so much people getting laid off, and it was just so much going on within that company. I could just imagine the people who working in the special effects department in the Flash, and in the other movies was not getting the backing they needed.
Yep.
So I just see it like that. But anyway, I mean, they got the movie done. Finally got it done.
They got it done.
Yeah.
But at what cost? We don't get a Batgirl movie now.
No, we do not.
And by all accounts, the rumors that circulated by the small handful of people that saw it said it was great, but it's locked away in the Warner Brothers vault, never to be seen again.
That's sad. That is so sad.
Yep.
And Michael Keaton played Batman.
Did he?
Yes.
Oh man,
I
didn't know if
yes.
he did. If he was Batman in that. I'm trying to remember the actress's name who played Batgirl.
Yeah, he actually was in there playing Batman again on Bruce Wayne 1. So I think he was in it, you know. But once again, missed opportunity.
Well. All right. Well, I think that's all I got to say about the Flash, man. Do you got any last minute or any things you want to circle back on?
No, not really, man. I said what I had to say about the Flash. Like I said, it was not bad. It's not good. I would say it was okay. And if I ever gave it a rating, like I always do on my movies and TV shows, from 1 to 10, I would give it a 6.5.
Okay. All right. I can agree. I can agree with that. 6.5 sounds good.
Yeah, I'll leave it right there. 6.5.
Oh, real quick, I do have one go back. The very last shot of the movie.
Oh yeah,
George Clooney comes back as a cameo as Bruce Wayne. What'd you think about that? I feel like after all we went through, I was like, okay, that's a pretty good ending. My kids won't get it, but I think it's hilarious.
I think I laughed my ass off on that one. So what happened is you had Michael Keaton, George Clooney, Ben Affleck. We couldn't do Val Kilmer because he was sick, whatever.
Yeah.
And one more Batman. That'd been Christian Bale. Now that if they showed him, I'm like, man, y'all really did y'all work? That'd be crazy. But I thought it was very funny to see George Clooney playing Bruce Wayne in his 10-piece suit.
Yeah, that was a great thing. I try to avoid any and all spoilers or information about a movie, especially one like this where I know there's going to be some type of cameos. And seeing that was just a great little cameo Easter egg, however you want to say it. I think it was a great way to cap off the movie.
Yeah, I think it was.
And I also enjoyed the post-credit scene with Jason Momoa and Barry getting drunk. Because again,
he said, "So I'm an Aquaman." I he kept going on and on.
Again, Jason Momoa looks like when he gets in this, he has a good time. Oh,
It does. It really does.
all right. So cool. Let's move on to my favorite part of
Hmm.
each and every episode. And with you being the guest, I will absolutely ask you, Amos, what has made you happy this week?
Oh, you want to know?
Yes,
You really want to know? What made me
absolutely.
happy this week? It is not freaking hot.
I know.
It is not hot. It's in the 80s, man. Jesus. I was very happy it was not that hot. The weather was it's so nice. I don't have to sweat my balls off while I'm working and everything like that. And yeah, I mean I'm happy.
Man, you know, for people who don't live in the South, they don't appreciate when it's not 100 degrees. And oh yeah, no, this is the weather we've had this week. Post hurricane has just been fantastic.
Yes, it has. It has, man. I'm happy. Because the way where I work, I'm always I'm back and forth in my car, doing this and that, and I'm outside. I'm outside most of the day, inside and outside the building. And man, when I got 190, I mean, I can't take it. So after the hurricane, the weather, that weather pattern, whatever came through, and it cooled down some, I was so happy, dude. So happy, man.
Yep.
That's one thing I'm happy about. That's one thing.
And especially with walking around downtown Atlanta on Friday, and it was
Yeah.
not super hot. Like it got a little toasty about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, walking in between the buildings and stuff. But the fact that it wasn't super hot, as it has been previous years in Labor Day weekend, ooh,
Yeah, that's one thing I'm happy about this past week.
cool. Well, I've already kind of talked about it at the beginning of the episode, but for sure, going to my first time going to Dragon Con was a magical experience. When I was
Okay.
when I was telling my folks, I went and hung out with my folks today and let my kids swim in their pool and all that, and I was telling them about it, and I was like, if there ever was a pitch that I would give to somebody, a non-American, about living or kind of like the American people, like what's so good about America, that would be it. That kind of con
Yeah.
culture, and it was kind of encapsulated in downtown Atlanta, where you have 100,000 people that descend upon the city, and everyone's in a room and there's a bunch of people and everyone's getting together, and I saw people who were old and people who were young and people from all different slices of life, and just getting together and having a good time, and it was so much fun. It was great, man.
Yes.
Made my heart
Yes.
sing.
Yeah. It's like everyday life is out the window, man. This is the day that you know enjoy what you enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
the passion you have for cosplaying, everything, anything in geekdom or pop culture down there, man. Just enjoy these next 3 days or 4 days,
Yep.
and leave your life behind. Whatever you had going on, work, bills, and stuff like that. Enjoy yourself. That's how I see it.
Yep.
I mean, that's why you go to conventions anyway to enjoy yourself, man. It's stress free and see the different people that you never met before in your life, but you are in the same thing. Y'all enjoy the same thing. That's what you call brotherhood and sisterhood, and of this kind of thing. You meet people you never met in your life, but y'all enjoy the same thing. That's all what conventions are about. It's many times I've been to conventions, I met many people, that we are in the same thing, and I exchange numbers sometimes. You get to network with people.
Yep.
You know, it's a wonderful thing.
It is. It is. I've yet to be at a comic convention and see people start fighting over nonsense.
Yeah, right.
Like not like which is better, Star Wars or Star Trek, but like people going, "Oh man, you stepped on my shoes. Oh man, what are you looking at?" the typical type of what I like to call bro dude, kind of that weird alpha male mentality where it's just like, bro, what, bro, what?
Right.
You don't see that at these type of events, and it is always such a fun hang. Just hanging out with like-minded people where you could literally just turn around to someone you're in line with and start talking, be like, you like Star Wars? I like Star Wars. I also like Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings, and you just start talking like two Mogwai in a shoebox, and it's just the best.
And you can have a disagreement and agreement at the same time.
Right.
At the end of the day, man, y'all enjoying yourself. That's what it is.
Yeah. And I like to think that a lot of these people very much are like me, where their day jobs are in an environment where they don't get to express their kind of nerdiness, for the lack of better words. Because I work kind of this mundane office job where a lot of my contemporaries are these people who, like they kind of like this stuff on like a high level thing. Like, yeah, Star Wars is cool or whatever, but for them to process the idea of going to a convention to get comics and talk to these creators and hang out with other like-minded people, like, no, that's nerd stuff. You're a loser. So to get a bunch of people that want to go do that kind of stuff and we're all together, it's fantastic. I can't stress it enough. It's so much fun. Can't wait to go next year. I'm going to try to do the whole weekend next year. And
yeah, I would recommend you do the whole weekend, dude.
So with that, we go in for the close. Amos, please tell everybody where they can find you on the web, in real life, just in general, man. Let them know. Let the people know.
You can check me out on social media. You can check me out on Instagram at Just Being Amos Podcast. Also on TikTok at Just Being Amos Podcast #1, and also on Facebook. And also, you could check me out also at the comic book shop I'm working at. It's called Syndicate Comics and Collectibles. And you can check out our website at syndicatecomicsshop.com.
And where's Syndicate Comic Shop located?
This is located in Marietta, Georgia.
All right.
Yeah, so look it up, Google it. We got just some of your favorite books. We got graded books. We got toys, Funko Pops, Pokemon, all the good stuff. All the nerdy, geeky stuff that you like.
Awesome.
And also, I want to plug in. Also, I forgot. I want to scale back a little bit. I meant to tell you, since we haven't talked so long, I've been working on my own book.
Really?
As well. Yeah, it's not. I'm almost to the finished process. The only thing now, I just need to get it printed, color and printed. That's it.
Oh man. Well, can you tell us what the book is about?
Well, not giving too much. It's a fantasy, science fiction crossover. Imagine Inception meet the fantasy world.
Okay. Is this a traditional book? Is it a graphic novel? Is it?
It's a one shot. It's just one shot traditional book. It's like 24 pages, comic book, single issue.
Okay. Awesome. Yep. Let me know when that comes out. I'll pick it up from you, and then we'll have you back on the show and we'll talk about it.
Oh, I really appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I will make you sign it though.
Of course.
So
I'll sign it for you.
I'm a sucker for signatures of creator signatures. So, you can find you can find me on all the socials at Turtles Do It, Instagram, Twitter. Don't even worry about Facebook. I'm barely on that anymore. You can find the show on all the various social media platforms, except for TikTok, because I'll get to that one day, I promise. But we're on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, YouTube, all of that. Just look for @NerdForNoReason. If you Google us, we're like the first 5 things that come up. Amos, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it, man. I've had a really good time talking to Flash with you.
Oh man, thanks for inviting me, man. I really appreciate it hanging out with you, talking about the Flash comic books, all the good things, man, that makes me who I am. So I really appreciate that, man.
No problem. And everyone else who's listening to this right now, please go check out his podcast, Just Being Amos. It's wonderful. I'm glad he's coming back after a hiatus. Do you know what your next couple of episodes are going to be?
Yes, I just haven't posted up yet, but my next episode is we talk about the MCU Phase 4.
Oh,
the mediocrity of it all.
Yeah. Real quick,
it's coming pretty soon, man. Yes.
Real quick, what's your favorite thing they've done in Phase 4 so far, like movie or TV show wise?
Oh man, oof.
Like I would say what's the worst, but I feel like you would be spoiled for choice. But what's your favorite aspect of Phase 4?
Some of the TV shows I really enjoyed. The movies not so much. Only one I enjoy has been Spider-Man. What was the No Way Home?
Yep.
And Shang-Chi.
Yep. Those are my two picks as well.
That's about it.
About it. I'm the same there. I thought WandaVision and Loki were pretty good. As far as the shows, I don't feel like they capitalized on either one of those two shows as far as like the movies go. So we'll see. And we got Loki season 2 coming out in like a month or so, I think. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to do that with all of the trouble that Jonathan Majors has gotten himself into. So, yeah, we'll see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, go do something wonderful in the world today and go ingest all your medias. And we will see you guys next week at the Nerd for No Reason podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.